Good morning, Accounting 2. Today we are going to start a balance sheet. We are actually in the same chapter as the chapter we were on when I left, chapter 15, and together we were working on income statements for a corporation organized as a merchandising business. We are still working on financial statements for a corporation organized as a merchandising business, but I want to move on to a balance sheet. First, I wanted to review a balance sheet with you folks that we did in Accounting 1. If you remember when I introduced the income statement, I showed you an Accounting 1 income statement. The reason I do this is so that you can appreciate what you're doing in Accounting 2 and so that you can first see something you're very familiar with before you see something that's totally new. Well, this is a balance sheet from Accounting 1. This is a service business balance sheet. Of course, with a service business, there's no merchandise inventory, which opens up a whole new problem in accounting. And this is also a business that was organized, as you can see here, as a proprietorship. And we're going to be dealing with stockholders' equity and equity in a corporation. So at the beginning of the balance sheet in Accounting 1, we had the name of the business, balance sheet, and a specific date, usually the last day of the fiscal period. On the left-hand side of the balance sheet, we have our assets, and that's all that's on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side, we have our liabilities and owner's equity. Because remember, we want our assets to equal our liabilities plus owner's equity, which is, of course, the accounting equation. Our liabilities are our payables. These are our total liabilities. To get this capital, you'll probably remember this from Accounting 2, or Accounting 1, excuse me. We took our old capital, we subtracted our drawing, and we added our net income to get this new capital balance. You get your total liabilities and owner's equity by taking your capital, your new capital, with that equation and adding it to your total liabilities to get, hopefully, your total asset total, which means that your balance sheet will equal. Now, this is a horizontal balance sheet. It's a very simple balance sheet and such. With an Accounting 2 balance sheet, again, we're doing a balance sheet for a corporation organized as a merchandising business. Again, we're going to have the name of our business on the top, and it's the same, we're using the same worksheet as we used for our work together for the income statement. So you're going to have to pull out that worksheet. If you could do that now, pull that out of your folder, that would be wonderful. And that's the work together worksheet, which is for Interstate Tires. The second line is going to say balance sheet, and then the third line again is the last day of your fiscal period. When you look at the big picture of a balance sheet, you can see we have our total assets, we have our total liabilities, and then we have our stockholders' equity. Assets, liabilities, stockholders' equity. So I want to pan in closer here, and today we're just going to do our total assets. When you look on your financial worksheet for the work together problem for Interstate Tires, you are going to pull all of the information from the balance sheet columns of that worksheet. Again, the balance sheet columns only. If you look at the other columns of the financial worksheet, those columns are not going to have the totals that you need to complete a balance sheet. And at the end, essentially, you want your assets to equal your liabilities and stockholders' equity. They are not going to equal if you use totals from the income statement column, the adjustment column, or the trial balance column. So once again, I just want to reiterate that you're going to be using the totals in the balance sheet section of that worksheet. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to center your assets, and then you're going to list your current assets. Your current assets are going to be cash, petty cash, and then your account receivable. The cash and the petty cash are going to go in this second column. Account receivable total, which again is on the balance sheet section of that worksheet, is going to go in the first column. The reason it goes in the first column is because you have to do some calculating to get your total accounts receivable. You are going to list your accounts receivable here, but you have to subtract, which here we have less, meaning we're subtracting, allowance for uncollectible accounts. It is not realistic to believe that all of these account receivables are going to be accounts that you are really going to receive paid in full. There's always a percentage of your total accounts receivable that are uncollectible accounts. Those are accounts that we can write off in our books later. Your uncollectible accounts for this situation, Interstate Tires, is $2,527.29. You're going to put a mathematical line here, which we've learned in accounting means we're going to be doing some math. Because this says less allowance for uncollectible accounts, we're going to subtract this $2,000 total from our $18,000 total to get $15,911.61. And that's going to go in our second column. Then we're going to list our merchandise inventory. Merchandise inventory is usually one of our largest assets, aside from the building in which our business is dwelling. And we're going to list that merchandise inventory in the second column. Then your supplies office, supplies store, prepaid insurance, and our mathematical line here indicates that we are ready to do some math. And what we're going to be doing is actually totaling our total current assets. And that means all of these numbers in this second column are going to be added up. Put your mathematical line, and the total goes here. So these columns are actually organized very similar to an income statement column, because this is itemized, totalized, finalized, with $223,214.13. Now, before we get our total assets, we have to do our plant assets. Plant assets are everything that is in our plant or our storefront. So we're going to list plant assets, which is a subsidiary of the assets, and we're going to list our office equipment. And office equipment total is going to come again from the balance sheet section of the worksheet. Less accumulated depreciation office equipment. Accumulated depreciation office equipment is $13,745.25. You can locate these totals in the balance sheet section of your worksheet as I'm talking. And since this says less, of course, that means we're going to be subtracting. So you're going to subtract this $13,000 total from the $18,000 total to get $4741.13. That's going to go in your totalize column. And then you're going to put a mathematical line. And what we're doing here is we are going to list our store equipment. And less accumulated depreciation for our store equipment is $24,000. Again, you're going to subtract, because we have the word less here, from the $32,000 total to get $7,947.62. Put a mathematical line across all of this, and then we have our total plant assets. Our total plant assets is going to be this total store equipment, this total office equipment, add them together to get this $12,000 total. Then we're going to place a mathematical line to get our total assets, which is our main goal in this whole section of the balance sheet. We're going to add $223,000 total to the $12,000 total to get $235,902.88. Now you're going to double roll here, and we're not equaling yet, but to show that we are finally done with the asset section of this balance sheet. Tomorrow we're going to learn about the liabilities and the stockholders' equity section of the balance sheet. So for today, what I would like you to do in conclusion is to finish this worksheet, this balance sheet for the work together. And then, of course, you know what I'm going to say next. Do the on your own for the on your own problem for this chapter. Now the on your own problem, again, you want to pull out the worksheet from your folder for the on your own for chapter 15.